Meeting to order. If we should encounter an emergency situation, please exit the building. There are 2 sets of doors off of the lobby, and if for some reason those doors are not available, please follow council, and there's another exit behind council chambers. If we are evacuated for any reason, we will meet at the muster point, which is near the gazebo in Lions Park, and we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the land acknowledgement. Councillor Iwanicki.
The town of Sylvan Lake respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, home of the Métis Nation of Alberta, Region 3. These lands are the traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and travel routes for many nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We are grateful to the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today and those who have gone before us. We acknowledge and thank all the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to open microphone. Open microphone is an opportunity for a resident of Sylvan Lake to express his or her feedback to issues pertaining to the town. We have up to 5 minutes per open microphone speaker for a maximum of 15 minutes total. And we have 1 sign up tonight for open microphone, Marlo Routhier. Welcome. You can come on up to the front. There's a round button in the center that will turn on your mic and you'll see it light up, and then you will hear a whole bunch of beeps. Just wait until those are completed and then we're happy to hear from you. It's counting you down. There we are.
Good evening, Your Worship and Town Council. If you see me looking down at my phone, it's just because I have some notes here, so bear with me. I would just like to talk about safe spaces in Sylvan Lake, and from my experience when I was younger, possibly kind of needing more or revamping some of the current ones. And I believe this is important, especially because some of my peers more so experience this, but if we had safer spaces, actually like stuff like habits or like addictions like vaping or marijuana in youth especially would go down. I believe. My evidence towards this is only personal experience, so, but I'm happy to share after if people would like. And I believe these habits would go down, like not only in youth, but as well as like future like adults, because these habits wouldn't be formed in youth. And I do get that underage vaping and like marijuana usage is already a huge concern for the town of Sylvan Lake. So I appreciate that, but I just thought I'd give my 2 cents on how to help that in creating these safe spaces. And I would like to say the way I would kind of go about revamping or creating new safe spaces is like finding a physical space, but also like website resources would be good. I've seen some on the Red Deer website that have like I don't know if the town does subcommittees, but I know there's like sometimes they list nonprofits or stuff like that. I haven't really seen too much of that on some like website. I might be looking in the wrong spot as well, but, and I just wanted to also hear, cause I couldn't really find much information on this entirely on the Sylvan Lake website, but I could be just looking in the wrong places again. I wanted to hear if there's like any like anything currently you are already doing in this regard that I might not know of, I guess.
Great. Council, I'll open it up if we have any questions to start off with. Yeah, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, just clarification. So, what are you looking for? Like, do you have any ideas? Like, what do you kind of? Because I hear what you're saying, but I just want to get kind of deeper into it. Like, what would you advise that we could do with your experience to help with people not doing the things like you said, which I would agree with as well. So do you have any, like, what would you like to see as far as, you know, these spaces?
I would like to see tailored spaces, also just open-ended spaces as well, like for Indigenous youth. I know a lot of like addiction can come from trauma and stuff like that. So like either like people who already have addictions, maybe addictions like groups like that, or groups for people who don't have addictions yet, but like could be predisposed to them due to like traumatic instances. So like groups for Indigenous youth or disabled youth too, because there's like a lot of bullying that goes on with disabled youth, unfortunately. And just even stuff that might not be considered bullying, but youth might not know they're bullying someone, because often the culprit, not often, but sometimes the culprit doesn't know what they're doing is considered rude to the person they're doing it to, and it kind of creates this like friction, because the person being bullied might be under the impression they know, because sometimes they do. But I guess just like more tailored groups for, I guess, like marginalized groups, it would be great. I know like the only one I could find, and again, like this is from my experience as a youth, was Prism Club at the library, which is for queer youth, which is great. But I believe there could be more than just that one. And it's not only for youth, it's also for older folks, but I believe also keeping some of those safe spaces specifically for youth would be great. Just because it's hard for adults and youth to relate to each other because they have different experience, yeah.
Absolutely. Appreciate that. Any additional questions, council? I will say, I know you came looking for more information, but we don't have the answer today. What I will ask is we've got your contact information, so we'll be able to do a loop back, but I really appreciate you bringing attention to it. And also the example of Red Deer having something really valuable to make sure that we also have that information available.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Yeah, great job. All right, we'll move along to adoption of the agenda. We have the agenda before us, Council. Ms. Phillips, do we have any changes?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We have no additions to the agenda.
Excellent. With that, would someone like to make a motion to approve? Councillor Payton. All those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Council, next we have the consent agenda. There's a number of items that have been recommended to be included in the consent agenda. They're all marked with an asterisk on our agenda. What I'll ask, this is a tool used to increase meeting efficiency, but if there is an item that you have extensive questions or debate on, we can just remove them from the consent agenda conversation and then allow us to address that just like any other agenda item. So before we go any further, Council, is there any items we'd like to remove? Councillor Ostindi.
Just the one on remuneration. It's not clear to me one of the lines in there.
I think that's great. Sure. Any other items? And Councillor Ostindi, did you have a question on another item that didn't necessarily warrant a removal, but?
Yeah, I did have one question with the South Annex land borrowing. Sanitary trunk, the 2.8 million potentially to be borrowed. Just wondering when the start date for that would be faced by us in the sense of the costs. I know that the Pogattle borrowing was noted as 2027, and I'm wondering is that the same for the South Annex land? If there's, it doesn't need to be pulled off the agenda to debate it, it's just information.
Looking for the information, absolutely.
Mr. Moore, do you have a clarification on that one?
I didn't see it. And I'm fine with getting it afterwards.
Okay, that's great. Then maybe we can go forward. We do have a lot of meeting ahead of us tonight, and if we are able to get that information tonight, that's great. If not, it could be emailed out to us. Fine. Wonderful. Excellent. Would someone like to make a motion for the consent agenda with the removal of the council remuneration policy? Councillor Payne.
You were a little slow, Councillor Owenecki. I move that the 2026-01-13 regular meeting of council minute meetings, sorry, let me start again. That the 2026-01-13 regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented. That the 2026-01-20 committee of the whole meeting minutes be approved as presented. That council give first reading to bylaw 1940-2026, the Pogattle Park Development Phase 4 borrowing bylaw as outlined in AIR 1303. That council give first reading to bylaw 1941-2026, the sanitary trunk main South Annex lands borrowing bylaw as outlined in AIR 1304. That council adopt the half-mast flag policy as presented in report AIR 1294. And further, that council rescind policy L001005A. That council approves proposed policy L002019, non-proclamation policy pursuant to AIR 1308. That council approves leave of absence for Councillor Payne for the meeting of January 13th, 2026 for the reasons of medical reasons. The council approves leave of absence for Mayor Hansen for the meeting of March 3rd, 2026 for the reason of council-related business. And that council approves request to attend meeting electronically for Mayor Hansen for the meeting of March 17th, 2026 for the reason of council-related business.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Payne. Final call if there's any other comments, and I'm not seeing any, so all those in favor? And in favor? Councillor Ostindi?
Okay,
Just checking. I didn't think you were opposed. Councillor Payne?
I just wanted to just make sure that I'm correct in the assumption that the repeal of policy L001004 is contingent upon council remuneration policy being presented.
Sorry, ask that question one more time so I can wrap my head around it.
We removed the adoption of the council remuneration policy as presented in AR 1311.
Correct.
And the following repeal is contingent upon that removal, so that would come at that later point.
All right.
Sorry, I missed that. So I would recommend we actually amend the motion to remove that both motions related to remuneration.
Well, I didn't actually say either one of them.
Okay, I missed that part,
Yeah.
so that's good.
I didn't
Keep
actually
it as
say either
is.
one of them. I just wanted to make sure that I did the correct thing.
You did.
Okay.
Did. Both are removed. Let's just vote one more time, just for safety here. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Councillor Ostindi, yes.
I'll just point out that I don't need that information. It is in the second report. It was just worded in a different way and I didn't catch it, but I did see it. Thank you. It is into 2027 or possibly 2028.
Thank you. And you'll notice that juggle for anyone who isn't familiar. There are very few things that can get you in trouble as a councillor, and one of them is not voting when you should be voting. So I will always catch the eye and make sure we don't leave anyone behind, because I'd hate to get someone in trouble for no reason. All right, we'll carry on with our agenda. Next, business item 6A, the smoke-free bylaw, first reading. Mr. Lebsack, welcome.
Hello, Your Worship and Council. So we are bringing forward the smoke-free bylaw here for a amendment, and it's coming through as first reading because it's a significant amendment, so we're giving it a new bylaw number and a new bylaw itself. So we've had a request from a local business that would like to permit a cigar lounge within town, and so we quickly went to the Tobacco Smoking and Vaping Act to look this up, and under the regulations it does permit cigar lounges. There's a specific exemption in there for cigar lounges. So what we've done here with this new version of the smoke-free bylaw is we have used word for word out of the Alberta Tobacco Smoking and Vaping Reduction Regulation, the wording, and inserted that into our bylaw just so that we do match the actual regulation from the province. We haven't changed anything. We haven't made anything different. We match it essentially word for word. So we're bringing that forward for first reading right now. And again, council may approve first reading as presented. You may have some amendments that want to go with it. And if you do not approve first reading, with the direction to leave the smoke-free bylaw as is, status quo.
Thank you. Council, I think on this one we can follow our regular procedure. We'll start with any questions for administration, then we'll put a motion on the floor, and then we can open it up to conversation and debate. So do we have any specific questions for Mr. Lebsack? Councillor Ostindi and then Payne.
I think I know the answer, but how many smoke-free cigar lounges do we have in the province of Alberta under this exemption?
Through the chair, we have one in the province of Alberta right now, up in Edmonton, in Enoch.
Councillor Payne.
My question is on the heels of that one. the bylaw as it reads for the Enoch establishment, is it also a cut and paste from the provincial standard, or are there exceptions that perhaps we haven't thought of that exist in that bylaw?
Again, through the chair, no, the bylaw that they're following under is exactly the same as the provincial regulation, which is what we have as well in our wording.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Additional questions, Councillor Johannesson.
Did you go? Are you a member? And how was it?
Through the chair, not yet.
Okay.
I'm not in Edmonton for about 3 more weeks at a conference, but
Okay.
I may be able to.
I asked that as a little bit
I may
of a
be able
joke,
to answer
but-
that question after that.
Yeah, a little bit of a joke, but I also am curious what it kind of looks like too, so.
Additional questions from council? Seeing none, would someone like to put first reading on the floor? Councillor Burns.
Make a motion that council approve first reading of the smoke-free bylaw 1942-2026 as reported in AIR 1306.
Thank you. We'll open it up for conversation, council. Councillor Ostindi.
Not due to personal affinity for cigars, because I have personally been known to have shared a cigar or had a portion of a cigar throughout my adult life. And it's actually an emotional time when I have a cigar. It's nearly ceremonial because it is a thinking of my father. And if he hadn't had a cigar at certain times in my life, I wouldn't have had a cigar either today or potentially in the future. And I am not going to vote based on this idea that do I believe someone should be able to have a cigar or not have a cigar, but I will be voting on a public health perspective, knowing how much work we've done with regards to reducing smoking rates in our country, and how when I was a kid, the majority of us smoked, and today a much smaller minority smoke. And I want to do everything that I believe is possible to encourage that trend. And I'm not saying I don't believe someone on their own private property shouldn't have a smoke with a cigar or many other substances. But I can't support this as an establishment in our town for reasons of public health and my values towards that. But otherwise, the wording looks great.
Thanks. Councillor Burns.
Yeah, I understand that the province has gone to great extent on and what they put in for safeguards for a cigar lounge. I understand that you know, it would be something apparently that would be licensed, etc. So it's a choice for someone to go in there. It's not like it's a random place you're going to walk into. So for that reason, there's lots of safeguards around it. People are making a choice to do that on their own, and so it's something that I can definitely support.
Councillor Johannesson.
Yeah, and I just, this is really for public record, because I think this is something that you will be, you know, fairly split, or people will be for it and definitely against it. I'm not a smoker, never have been, but I do understand that, and no offense to our wonderful CEO who reminded me that women smoke cigars as well, but for men especially, as we get older, we lose connection with other men. You know, work takes on our life, family takes on our life, and we don't get to spend time, you know, with the boys. And it's a really important thing for men to get out, and you know, we're different than women in the sense that we're not good at talking about our feelings, but when you pass a cigar around and you're chilling, maybe with a glass of whiskey along with it, it just kind of happens naturally. That's kind of how we do things, and I think it can be. Well, I do respect Councillor Ostindi's you know, position on this. I think it can actually have a net mental health benefit, especially for the men in our town who often struggle silently. And so I think this could be an area where it could be a net benefit to the mental health of the men in our town. And I think that's important. I think that having a place where they can gather and smoke a cigar, and it is very ceremonial. And I probably won't go there just because I don't smoke, but I think it could be really good. And on top of that, because there's only one other cigar lounge in the province, I think this is a major attraction to Sylvan Lake with tourism and people just coming and going to a place that they can't go anywhere else. And like Councillor Mern said, there's extremely strict regulations. You're in there by choice. And I made this point, when we talked about this a little bit before, but if you walk into a Sephora, the stuff you're breathing in there is pretty terrible as well. So, or down the laundry detergent aisle at the grocery store, I hold my breath when I go down there because you don't want to be breathing that in either. So I think that, I think this is a really net positive for Sylvan Lake. I think this is a good move moving forward, and I really think this could be a wonderful place for people to, specifically men, who are often forgotten about in the mental health conversation, to get with their men and their friends and talk things out in a positive way. So I definitely support this motion.
Councillor Payne. Councillor Bilodeau.
I just have to say I'm confused. I don't really know which way to go with this because of how we're moving forward as a society with our health. So that's an issue. I can appreciate that there might be a niche for it, but I'm also confused by the fact that there's only one other cigar lounge in all of Alberta. So it makes me feel like people haven't jumped on this wagon for a reason. So I don't know which way to go with this. So I just wanted to say it's a little confusing to me.
Councillor Payne, take two.
Okay. I hesitated to say anything because I actually felt almost identical to Councillor Bilodeau in that I have to say, I hadn't thought of it from Councillor Johannesson's perspective, from the mental health perspective, because I do know my wife for many years was in psychiatry, and one of the things that she would talk about frequently is how much she hated the smoke room on the psych unit. But it was a necessity. It was one of those pieces that helped tremendously for a quarter of the population. So I struggle as well. I struggle because from the health perspective, from the community perspective, we have done work over the last 15 years, tremendous work to restrict this, to take this away. But then I also look at the fact that over the last 15 years, how many liquor stores have opened up? How many marijuana, how many pot stores have opened up? I do think it's choice. I think Councillor Mearns is exactly right. I think it's choice as to whether or not you use it, whether or not you frequent it, whether or not you go into it. I do like the regulation, and I do like the fact that the regulation is very specific, that this is not in any way an option for minors. You cannot happen into this location. You can't accidentally end up in this location. So I support it in the sense that I do think that there is a place in the community for some of these vices. But I also struggle with the idea that it's a vice. My own values tell me I'm never going to frequent this. I've never smoked a cigar. I don't think I've ever held a cigar. So it's not something that I find important, but I also find myself swayed with the mental health question, because I have seen that in my own life. So I'm going to spend the next however long other people speak to figure it out. But
Councillor Iwanicki.
I'll just begin by saying when it comes to this sort of thing, I'm a very boring man. I don't drink, I don't smoke anything, I don't party in any way, shape, or form. So whether or not I would actually go to something like this is kind of irrelevant to me, but I look at it as something that the province has enabled, right? They have expressly gone through the work of carving this out, and I don't want to pass my personal either feelings on the health aspect or moral questions about it on whether or not it should be allowed. I think it's a good opportunity for the town to try something different, and if the economics don't make sense, then nobody's going to open one at the end of the day. And I don't think we should close the door to that. And then I'll echo what Councillor Payne and Councillor Johannesson said. There's an epidemic of lonely men out there, and there are not enough third spaces. Like, yeah, you'd have to pay for this, but there's not enough spaces for men to go and do traditional men type activities. You know, there's a man shed in town or the bars. And frankly, if I had a friend who wanted to go a couple times a week drinking, I think I would rather he was going to something like this. I think that would be a better positive outcome for them to hang out with their friends and do. Yeah, those are my thoughts on it. So.
Sure, Councillor Johannesson. And then
I just wanted to touch on what Councillor Bilodeau said. And I don't know this, and maybe Ron can help us out. I think one of the main reasons why we only have one in the province because I think it's incredibly expensive to make the building compliant. I don't think a lot of people, I would imagine it would be a business risk as well. So I think that might be kind of one of the reasons that maybe it's not. I'm not exactly sure on that, but I just wanted to touch on that a little bit. And also, I don't think it's known. Like, I don't know how many people know that you can do these types of things either. So yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
Thank you. I'll jump in and say specifically to the cigar bar amendment, I'm comfortable with that. I kind of feel the same. It's a choice to go there. There is extra layers set up to ensure the ventilation and all the other things. I do think it would be quite costly to set that up, and that's a business choice. I like to see more of that, and we have many other vices in town. I will say, I was also excited to open up this bylaw because there's one other item that I would really like us to consider, completely unrelated, but this is also our opportunity because we are addressing the bylaw. And it's that there's no mention of sidewalks being an area that you can't smoke in Sylvan Lake. Now, if you read between the lines, that certainly would be included, but I've spoken many times about how it doesn't feel comfortable walking through a cloud of smoke on some of our frequented restaurant and bar sidewalks, Lakeshore Drive and other areas. And I would love to see that really clearly spelt out within this bylaw, that smoking on sidewalks is not allowed, because while it's okay in one confined space, I do not feel that way about it being okay for everyone else in the community to be subjected to secondhand smoke when they don't choose to be there. It also just wouldn't be, it wouldn't be me if I didn't also point out that the current bylaw really does prohibit any smoking at the back door of the Nexus Center. And I would really love to see more enforcement between periods of the Wranglers games, because that's another time where you go to partake in healthy activity in our community and you walk through a cloud of smoke to exit that building. And that is a building fully within our control. I just think if there's any place to be extremely strict on that, it should be around a facility made for health. So, there's not really a place to include that in the bylaw, but I'm going to say it anyways. But I do believe it would be great to spell out sidewalks just as an added tool and for clarity. Councillor Iwanicki.
Sorry to come out of order a little bit. I did ask Mr. Lebsack a question about the beach as well. Just echoing what Mayor Hansen said, I'd like to see some clarity to ensure that the beach is 100% absolutely covered on the no smoking bylaw. It just doesn't use the word beach anywhere. It says park. And I'm not sure what the enforcement level or ability is with the lease on there. So if we're going to make any changes, if we can just add a bit of clarifying language to ensure that everybody knows on the beach that we have the lease, that you can't smoke there.
Sure. Any additional council thoughts on those added points? Councillor Mearns?
If this goes through first reading, is that something that can back for second reading, Mr. Lebsack, those ideas?
Yeah, through the chair, that's correct. We would identify those and bring them back at second reading within the bylaw.
That's great. All right, seeing no further hands flying, we have first reading on the floor. I will say, at least in traditional council practice, it's quite unusual to have that level of debate and conversation around first reading, because the approval of first reading does move it into the point when we can now ask residents what they think. So that's really what we're looking for at this. And we have a motion on the floor already to approve first reading of the bylaw. No further hands, so all those in favor? And opposed? That's great. So that is carried to at least go to second reading of the bylaw. And we will see that back at a future meeting date. Thank you. All right, we will go along to item 6D, municipal government building renovations.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The purpose of this report is to request a budget adjustment for the municipal government building renovations. As I'm sure you're aware, over the past several decades, our town of Sylvan Lake has seen incredible growth with a 10.3% increase over just the past 5 years. With such a substantial growth, of course, administration also had to grow to meet the community needs. Due to this, administration has needed to occupy space that was used and rented out to the public, or occupy space that wasn't intended for such use in order to perform their duties. In order to address these issues, administration investigated to see what could be done in the most easiest and economical way. With the lower level of the MGB being basically a blank slate, renovating that space seemed like the best solution. Administration was able to procure the services of Blue Spruce Architecture to help us create and renovate this space. When ultimately done, the lower level will be able to have 25 standard workstations, 3 manager's office, several different meeting rooms with specialized work areas for key personnel. Phase 1 of this project would see the creation of 15 workstations, 2 manager's offices, 1 small meeting room, which could be adapted into a manager's office if need be, and also a dedicated specialized IT work area to meet their needs. Currently, the budget to perform this, phase 1, is $780,000. Taking out the budget we currently have allotted for this project would result in a shortfall of $520,800. Administration would like to perform a budget adjustment and transfer the outstanding balance needed from the corporate capital reserves. When this is done, there would be a healthy remaining balance in those reserves of about $2.2 million. Administration has presented a few options for council to consider, with administration respectfully recommending that council award the suggested budget adjustment of $520,800 from the corporate capital reserves to CP 2422 municipal government building renovations. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. We'll start with any questions for Mr. Boudreau. Councillor Iwanicki.
Thank you, sir. Just a question on the budget adjustment amount. It might have been in here and I just glazed over it. What is the $50,000 consulting fee that's now being requested? What does that relate to?
Yes, through the chair to Councillor Iwanicki. The $50,000 consulting fee will provide finalized tendering documents to issue and post it on our bids and tenders website. The needs for them to evaluate said documents, perform construction management and evaluation of the project as it proceeds forward to ensure it's meeting our needs and meets the design specifications as necessary. Safety codes are being met as necessary through the course of the project. Performing final inspections on everything once it's complete to ensure, again, completion and safety measures are still being met. And then just helping us to ensure securities are being processed, invoices are being processed adequately, all the financials are done as necessary.
Hi, I do have a question, and it touches on the additional revenue opportunities that we're losing out on right now. I can think of the space in the Nexar Center, and I'm sure there's a few others. Have we factored in, and I didn't see a dollar amount budgeted on the revenue opportunities we would realize after this renovation? And I know that's not a large number, but I would suspect it's at least a handful of thousands of dollars annually on some of those spaces that we're currently using for staff spaces that would be rented out to the public after this change. Do you have any information on that?
To Megan, Mayor Hansen, no, we don't have that information available right now, but we can take a look into it and figure out what those totals are.
That'd be great. Ms. Phillips.
If I could call up Ms. Colcutt.
Mayor Hansen, we're looking at a few $1,000s. So the space in the Nexar Center was originally leased out to a tenant. We've replaced that leasehold opportunity with some WCC staff to alleviate some of those issues. So depending on the space that they're occupied in, we're looking at about $15 to $18 per square foot plus the triple net costs. So we're looking about, depending on the space, if the typical one's upstairs, anywhere between $800 and $1,200 a month.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Wonderful. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Ostindi, thank you.
I move that council award the budget adjustment of $520,800 from the corporate capital reserves to CP 2422 municipal government building renovations as presented in AIR 1309.
Excellent. Open it up for discussion. Councillor Payne.
So right now, the space that is going to be renovated and built up downstairs is predominantly used for storage, which doesn't really solve the problem of space in the long run, because we're going to have to move all that stuff out of storage and into another space. Have we thought about how that's going to work? Because it's full right now.
It's not.
It's not full.
If you went down there this morning, it would have been full. It was cleared out today.
Where'd everything go?
We've kept some things down there. Do you want to comment on that further?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Yes, through the chair to Councillor Payne. We've gone through it with the staff and stuff, and there's a number of things down there that warranted, able to be moved to other buildings or able to be just, made opportunities for other people who might need the equipment for their use. So, yeah, we found that a lot of it was just, it's like a large junk drawer, I guess, is what it was turning into, lack of a better term. So everyone just sort of crammed everything down there and thought, yeah, it's a good spot for it. And so we found out a lot of it just could be pushed on to somewhere else, to somebody else, and some of it has been set aside. We had a lot of space down there. Something else that has been going on down there over the past year or so as well is digitization of our documents has been an extensive process that staff is undertaking. And then if you go down there and you see the shelves that once held documents that now do not, it is basically a third of that size is left. So a lot of space has been made available for whatever it is we need to use it for. So we think we're set up pretty good now.
Well, now I feel guilty because I've contributed to the junk drawer. You're like, oh, I got a new office chair. What do you do with the old one? I'll take it to the basement. I imagine there was a lot of that today. Any other conversation, Council? Councillor Ostindi.
Question, do we have a projection, given that this space was required 12 years after we opened, do we project, another 12 years from now we'll renovate the other half of the basement? And has any questions or research been done on, private leasing? I know other governments sometimes do that. They'll lease private spaces in the town and put offices, different departments in them. Have we had to do that already with regards to WCC, for instance, or future projections?
Through the chair to Councillor Ostindi. I'll answer your first question. When do we foresee future development down there? Great question. Really, it can only be measured by how quickly our town grows, how quickly our town needs are. Those sort of things sort of dictate one or the other. So we'll see how things go out. I mean, we think that what we have proposed will see us for a number of years. So we'll just have to measure it as we go forward. We have been very efficient in the space we've been using, the buildings we do have. And so, again, the idea is we're just going to try to keep our efficiencies while still maintaining a nice, safe, comfortable work environment for our staff. The thought is, you know, we spend more time here than we do at our homes with our families. So making sure we do have a nice workspace for everyone to be here comfortably is important to all of us. And so that's kind of what we're thinking here too, is we're able to develop this space just to meet those needs. Now, renting out additional space for staff to use, I don't believe, maybe Dawn could answer that a bit better. Yeah.
We did bring forward one suggestion of a building that we could potentially purchase or lease a few months ago. And we do have, and this would come in significantly lower over time, of course, but, and it is a good space to renovate, not to mention that there's a large meeting space that we can create in the next phase. So it depends on when that need is there. I keep saying the advantage of that meeting space is there's nobody doing aerobics next door, so it's a little quieter. We haven't pursued any lease spaces at this time, but Director Khan, sorry, that was where I was going. I lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. We're bringing forward all the buildings at a committee of the whole governance priorities meeting coming up, and we're going to review all the buildings that we have and our future needs. And Director Khan is also suggesting in the budget that we do a building needs assessment as well. Then that will help us set us up more successfully for future moving forward. And if I can comment further, with this reno, the intent would be in this building, we would probably move about a dozen people potentially into the lower level. We want to make sure it's not just IT alone in the basement, right? We want a well-used, visited lower level of the building. So we're just going to work out who we move where. But with that, it'll open up some space on the main floor or the upper floor where we could maybe create a community services wing that in the short term at least, until we go through our needs study and everything else, we have room for our WCC staff that are currently either in the lease space at the next source or in hallways, not quite hallways, but that would be a safety hazard, but in spaces that are probably not the best suited for office space. And then as we free up more space at WCC, we can look at that further.
Additional question, parking. As we bring more people to this building, will there be some additional considerations for council now or in the short-term future when it comes to making more parking spots accessible for those that will be welcomed into this building? Because if you've ever been here, council, on not a council night, just during a work day, you're not parking close. And then Councillor Payne.
Our engineering department has put money in the budget for this year to do a study or the design, and then with the intention of bringing it forward to expand our parking for the building. We have some space by the dumpsters.
Yeah.
What direction is that? Sorry.
Yeah, just northwest here.
Northwest?
Yeah, there is some availability there. There is an old road right-of-way that's still open. It's just unused. That presents itself as a viable solution. There are other options we're going to explore too, but yeah, we're going to start looking deeper into that this year, obviously with the renovations that we're proposing and stuff too. It's certainly going to put a pinch on that parking even more.
Councillor Payne.
Don't we own a lot two lots down? Yeah. Is it along the railroad? Because I think we could definitely, parking, that's just a parking idea. I actually thought the idea of IT being in the basement, it gave me a little bit of joy. I apologize, but I think that the idea of having everybody in a single space or in a space here is, to me, much more efficient. I don't like the idea of, it's one thing to have the mob guys at the mob, because, well, they're those guys. And John's not here, is he? Okay, no, it's good. I don't want to get hit with something. But, I do think that having all the departments in one central area, to me, makes all the sense in the world. So I think it's a great idea, not just IT in the basement, sorry.
Excellent. Any additional comments or conversation, council? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. I'm sorry, I didn't note who made that motion. Can someone help me for my notes? Councillor Oostende, thank you. All those in favor? And opposed, and that is carried unanimously. All right, next we will move along to the records management bylaw. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mayor Hansen, and good evening, Council. So with this report, we're looking to propose second and third reading tonight, if Council so wishes, of the new Records Management Bylaw 1938-2026, repealing 1889-2023. Fairly straightforward update just to reflect the changes with the FOIP Act going away last year, so and to replace the references with the two new acts, the Access to Information Act and the Protection of Privacy Act. So one little oddity with this report, the new bylaw is presented without the edits. The old bylaw has the edits in it, but it's just reflecting those changes as I mentioned. So if there's any questions from council, be happy to answer them.
Start with questions. Councillor Payne.
So do you say questions or motions?
If you're ready for a motion.
I'm ready for a motion. I move that council give second reading to bylaw 1938-2026, the records management bylaw as outlined in report AIR 1312.
Excellent. We'll open up the floor for any conversation, questions, all of the above. Councillor Oostende.
It appears that this version of the bylaw has some incomplete sentences, and just because the references need to still be, the edited sections still need more editing, it appears. Just give you an example. One of them says, whereas as amended requires that public bodies protect personal information. Like you can hear from the start of that sentence, it doesn't read well. So there just appears that there's the odd word that needs to be inserted so that, for instance, that one on page 57, the whereas is complete. On page 59, there's another one. You know, there's a few.
Ms. Phillips.
Yeah.
You're looking at the old bylaw. Yeah. The cleaned up bylaw is presented on page 50. So that one just had the edits from first reading. On page 45 is the cleaned up version.
Okay,
so
thank you.
Hopefully you won't find those errors in the cleaned up version. I think we caught them, correct?
Yes, thank you, CEO Phillips. Yeah, so the correct one, the clean version should be the one without any edits in it.
Oh. I went by protocol. Usually we have the new one after the, in reverse, and then it has the yellowed sections to tell us exactly what to read. Yeah. Okay, I will trust that they are totally fine.
I hope they are.
Because those yellow blocks didn't match at all.
That's great. Any additional conversation, council? We have a motion for second reading on the floor from Councillor Payne. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Do we have any appetite to move forward for third reading? Councillor Awaniki.
Yeah, I move that council give third reading to bylaw 1938-2026, the records management bylaws outlined in report AIR 1312.
Wonderful. And I'm going to turn to Councillor Oostende because he is just fact checking against his sheet.
Yeah, they look, the sections, like the definitions, that look perfect, so totally comfortable.
Wonderful. Last call for any questions or conversation. We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Moore. Next, we'll move along to Council Chambers Technology Upgrade.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hansen. As council likely remembers, this was discussed back in December meeting of council as a pre-budget approval item, and it was removed from the list at the time, just for administration to do a little more research and come back with some options. So here we are tonight. So Joel has joined me, as you can see, IT manager, to explain some of the issues we have to look at here and select some options possibly. And then we're also looking for council to maybe pick some features that they would like to see in a proposed new system for this room, for chambers, and then set a budget as well. So by doing that, that will allow us to start the RFP process and get that issued, and then get some kind of options that we can bring back to council, perhaps with some videos or some demonstrations for council to look at and go from there. So that's what we're doing here this evening. I'll turn it over to Joel. The attachment there outlines some of the things we want to consider, as well as you know, some of the features that we may want to proceed with. So I'll turn it over to Joel.
I've risen from the basement for this. be the future opening line. So based on the budget bracket, this is kind of vague. I know at the moment we haven't obviously reached out for RFP to be given specific hardware needs, but I have met with several vendors to get to this point here. There's a couple of things I'd like to add that I did miss here. One ties into another project we're doing this year with access control. So there's electronic nameplates is another feature that will fall under this and within the budget we're asking for. So it removes the need for the physical nameplates. And it also ties into your swipe cards. So once we do the access control project this year, you'd be able to insert your swipe card into your station, and it would illuminate based on who sat at each location. So in theory, anyone with a town swipe card could sit anywhere and it would illuminate their name. Through the software, you can also tie that into external folks. So if there's committees coming in externally, through the software, we could have their names show up on the electronic nameplates as well, based on where they're seating around the horseshoe. That would be a standard feature that we would be able to get from the RFP. All the other options outlined in here, as I mentioned, they seem vague, but they all fit within the lower end of the requested budget. The reason for the higher bracket is because there was an LED wall that caught my attention that would replace the need for TVs. They have it, I believe, I was told that HJ Cody have them now. They have these LED walls. I haven't seen them there, but I was informed they do. Same with one of the schools in Red Deer there. So the higher end would be to replace the TVs with more of an LED wall that I would envision being located over here. And the life expectancy of those, it can run continuously for 100,000 hours. So there'd be less fail points with the existing TVs, which I know we run into issues with. But all the other options outlined in here are just standard features that we'd be able to get with modern technology upgrades. It would just be the addition for the LED wall that would warrant the higher end of the budget. But if that's not a desired feature, then the lower end would certainly get everything else as required.
Thank you. We'll start with specific questions, then we'll maybe put a motion on the floor, and then we can talk through features and have a bit more of a discussion conversation if that works. So we'll start with questions, Councillor Mearns, and then Iwanicki.
The LED wall, is that something that could be added at a later time, I'm assuming?
Yeah, it can be added at a later time, and also if a part was to go on the wall, you wouldn't need to replace the whole wall. Part of the RFP they would send replacement parts for the current LED wall installation. But as the say the bulbs die out, you'll start to notice color discrepancies if the wall doesn't get upgraded or maintained as a whole. But the feedback I was given was you get about 10 years expectancy out of the wall without any issues. But then you would be looking at pretty expensive costs to replace and maintain thereon. So it would be a nice to have for 10 years, and then it would be something that we'd be looking to replace. But that's probably the case, as is with the equipment that we're speaking about now. That predates me. I don't know when it was installed, but I'm assuming it's a similar time frame than what we're doing now. So,
Councillor Iwanicki.
I'm asking just because I know this came up in previous discussions. As much as I love technology, it can solve a lot of problems. What it can't do is the sound quality live.
yeah.
I did ask some questions previously about if we were to do a technology upgrade, are we also going to look at doing some acoustic tweaking in the room so it's not quite so echoing? Is that contemplated as part of this upgrade package?
Do you want to?
Through the chair, yes, it is. So that was part of the one of the proposed items in the interim budget. So we did pull that. So we wanted to make sure that that was part of this package as well, so that whatever specifications maybe the proponent that comes forward and is awarded the contract, that the sound attenuation baffles would meet the needs of their system to make it better.
Additional questions? Yeah, Councillor Ostindi.
One question I have is regarding document sharing for online viewers. How does that tie in with this specifically, or does it? And I think that's an important feature.
Yeah, so the document sharing could go external and internal. Some of the features we were looking at was the agendas, for example, could be pre-published on the media stations that would be at every workspace here. So the options we were looking at, there was not just the mic, it would be a media screen. It would have closed captioning features. It would also transcribe. So even the people sitting here, it would transcribe on the screens in front of you as I talk, minus accent. So I don't know if it could pick that. But yes, that would also go out externally, if I'm understanding the question. So yeah, so it would also, the transcribing could be turned on or off, and that would go out to the public as well. Also with the features, each station would have its own camera, so it would actually zoom in on the person talking. I know some of the issues we have now is with the one stationary camera. It can sometimes be hard. You look for the illumination of the mics for people online to see who's talking. But with the new upgrades, it would actually zoom in on the person talking. That feature can be turned off. If multiple mics are illuminated, as they are now, it would showcase all the illuminated mics and the cameras for the YouTube viewing audience as well. But they're features that can be turned on and off for the YouTube stream.
So just for clarity, all items that are mentioned in the following pages of our package are included in that budget. The only difference from one budget number to the other is the screen.
Correct. Yes, and again, no specific hardware has been mentioned. I just reached out to a few vendors that we deal with to get a base level. So yes, all that's mentioned in this report would be covered at the low end of that budget. That would be standard upgrades, yeah.
Excellent. Councillor Payne, a question.
Comment more. The LED wall is interesting because with the LED wall, you can make it as small as this television, or you can make it as, like, literally the size of that wall in its entirety, because it comes as panels that are about the size of this. And each panel fits into a grid. And then the panels act as one. So you're watching one television, even though it's 40 panels. So you could start with it being 6 feet by 12. And then you could literally make it like HJ Cody's, which I think is 16 feet by 30. It's huge, it's a huge screen. So that's one of those things that you could adjust. You could make it very small, or small relatively speaking, twice the size of this TV, and you could add to it if in the event you weren't happy with it. So it's not one of those things that is a fixed, you have to do it all at once. You can do it in stages, and you could literally start off with a 6 by 12 and end up with a 12 by 24 if you want to go that route. One of the things I love about it is, unlike televisions like this one here, the difficulty is, you know, if I'm sitting in the gallery, I'm not reading a single thing on that TV. Like, there's no possibility for me. So it's interesting that we've tolerated this for as long as we have. Like, I can't even really read what's on this one. So it's a nice to have, but on the other hand, it is costly. It's very costly. So it's one of those things you got to decide, like, how important is it to be able to have the people in the gallery following along with what's happening on the screens? That's really the only question.
I think I have an LED wall question, although I have a bit of a leanings already. Where would you put it that everyone would have equal, like, I can't imagine one would do it. There's a reason why we have 4 screens.
My vision would be for it to be off to the side over here. With the vendors I met with, that's where we envisioned it going. The TV would be removed, and as Councillor Payne mentioned, it could start small, but in theory it could grow to cover the majority of the wall there.
I guess, how does that puts half of council with their backs to it.
Yeah.
And it would be hard to do their work while also seeing the screen. I'm not sure that that's fair.
Yeah, they would also get the viewing on the media stations in front of them as well. It's hard because there's no screens currently. I mean, you have your laptop, sorry, but the actual mic stations have mini displays on them as well. So they would have that option, if not for the laptops, but there's nothing to say we would have to remove, say, this TV here, or even that TV, or even that one, if we want to keep it there. But my vision would be more to remove at least the one TV. We could keep these TVs here. This one could even potentially be remounted if we fix what I believe to be glare issues that was the reason it came down in the first place. So there's nothing to say we have to remove these TVs. That would be something that would be an option for council because, that consideration is valid.
Absolutely. Any other comments, Councillor Iwanicki?
What's the estimated lifespan left of the equipment that we have here? Like, how long do you expect before things just start completely?
Well, the one TV is original. The other 2 have been replaced in my time, which is only 5 years. The mics, I'm surprised that none of them have actually gone already because in reaching out again to the vendor that supplied them, they're way beyond end of life by several years, and we couldn't replace them if we wanted to. So I'm surprised the mics have held on as long as they have, but touch wood. Especially since the wireless ones have since been donated from the basement. So yeah, I'd say we'd be lucky to get a couple more years, but I would have probably said that 2 years ago, so I don't want to put an exact time on that.
All right, Council, I think the first decision we need to make here is just around the screen. Can I just get a bit of a head nod if we'd like to look at the higher end of the budget or the lower end, so we can get a motion on the floor? We can do a quick round, Councillor Payne, or Mearns, sorry. Councillor Mearns, if we can start with you.
Yeah, I'm fine to stay on the lower side of that budget as being presented and do without the screen.
Councillor Bilodeau.
Yeah, I agree. I'm comfortable with the original proposal, I guess, and that doesn't include this wall. Yeah, that's where I'm coming.
Councillor Iwanicki.
Yeah, the lower the better is my thought.
Great. Me as well. Councillor Oostende.
Yeah, I'll go with the lower, although I think it's worth investigating over time, and I'm pretty sure the screen you're thinking of in Red Deer's with Hunting Hills High School, it's been around 7 years installed, so that'd be a good measure of have they had troubles in the first majority of a decade. And I believe the Red Deer Casino is an example of the biggest LED screen in the province, actually. So there's something to compare to. They're ridiculously bigger than we would ever imagine, and I like the thought that Councillor Payne mentioned is you don't have to go with a wall. You can just go with 4 panels, and I know I see people in the public gallery often squinting, and so it is difficult to always see what we're seeing. So I do have a concern that we should look into that over time. I don't have to rush for it myself, but the rest go for it.
Yeah, I'll just echo what everyone else already said. I would agree with those.
Councillor Payne?
Yeah, I agree. I do think that we should look at, in future years, improving this, because this technology is antiquated, you know, and having people have to struggle to read what's on the screens. And this is, you know, this is even a little better than most things. When Mr. Moore comes during budget time, you can't see a thing on those screens because everything he uses the, you know, Finance Department number 6 font, and makes it nearly impossible.
Great. Can someone put a motion on the floor with the proposed budget? Councillor Bilodeau.
Motion that council approve a budget of 150,000. Is that the one? Yeah. for council chambers technology upgrade as outlined in report AIR 1316.
Excellent. I'd like to take an extra couple of minutes on this item. We've got the list of the things that are included in that, but I want to make sure we have the opportunity. Is there anything not on that list or any additional points that we want to draw attention to council to make sure they're made aware of? And then I'd like to ask about the who could be involved next, but let's start with that. Councillor Mearns and Payne.
I'm thankful that that's all included in the budget, because I was reading it going, what don't I want to take out of here? So I'm happy with everything in there. I don't think that there's been anything missed. You know, if this moves forward, excited to see it take place, because I've been around long enough to know just the microphone headaches we've had, and you know, to hear Councillor Stindy with some of the issues of the sound in here, and hear from others. So I don't think there's anything missing from this list, and happily support it.
Councillor Payne.
Joel, is the video speaker tracking multi-camera, or is it still one camera?
No, it'd be multi-cameras. We would still have one in the room to see the big picture, but each station would have its own on there, yeah. So there would be, even the stations here would have, so you could actually, if we turned it on, have even open mic, the people speaking would actually be able to be seen rather than the back of their heads. So yeah, there would be multi-view for everyone around the horseshoe there, and then there would be one aerial view based on location. We'd have to decide.
And at the stations for each councillor, I would assume the screen's probably close to the size of this screen?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the camera is built in much like it would be like a laptop?
Correct.
Cool.
And I will say with regards to the existing screens, if we didn't go the LED screen route, we would obviously we would be overhauling the existing monitors as part of the equipment refresh. It would just be if we went the LED route, we wouldn't replace these existing ones with alternative monitors. The LED screen would likely replace them. But if we don't go that route, we would certainly consider upgrading the size of these screens, if nothing else, for visual as part of this.
Did have a question around, I'll jump in with this one and then we'll go to Councillor Stindy. Around the agenda technology, and I don't see that included, and that was a real hope of mine. I don't have a great way to describe this other than in other meetings I'm a part of, they use different technology. One, I think, is a module on the program that we actually create the agendas in. Another one is Convene, is one that I know well, and I'm really hopeful we have factored in a way to read our agendas digitally better than in a PDF. Some of the features that I really look for within that are the ability to share notes and questions, or to keep them private as I go through it, is to click from a cover page that I can always keep on a side panel to that portion of the agenda rather than doom scrolling through 600 pages of a PDF, which is our current model, a way to save and flag some of those notes for later. Does part of this include, and also a kind of follow along technology? So as it's on the screen, I can choose to click a button and it takes me back where the meeting is, or I can scroll on my own and then go back to it. Are those features something we have factored in, that technology, for actually how we read, note, and work on council agendas? Because I'm hoping to get away from being a tree killer, but it is very hard when a PDF is the only option. And the ability to transfer that through different devices. So like a Convene, I log into that program, and regardless of whether I'm on my work computer, my home computer, my station, I can still see my same notes.
Yes, document management has been considered. My apologies for not putting it in here. It's more of a super vague one because there is so many avenues we could go with it. We will be having more discussions around that, but there will be something there. It's not been completely excluded. And I caught something you mentioned at the start, which I think is in here, but there's the ability to vote from your station as well. Not just with, we could open up the YouTube to comments and questions, and then you would have the ability to vote internally here, and those answers to the votes would go out to YouTube as well. So those options were available. There's definitely software available for better handling agendas. It's just there's a lot of options there, but we will be considering that in the RFP for sure.
That's great. And then the other component I just wanted to bring attention to talks about hybrid meetings in here, and I love that. But also the ability for public, you know, if open mic remains or delegations, we have had some challenges having public join into our meeting, and I hope that's a consideration.
Yep, absolutely, yes. I know we've started to fix that a bit more now. We have more of a way to dial in. Those features will be integrated in the new system for sure, yes. So external residents could do open mic remotely.
Wonderful. Councillor Ostindi.
Yeah, I was just going to repeat the thought, just because it isn't specifically written down, the idea of the document sharing externally, so that, you know, a member of the public here in the room sees the TV screen. You know, we're going to make some improvements on that. We want the person sitting at home watching to be able to see that same screen of equal quality. And then we can imagine people watching split screens, the camera and the document, or the ability to, you know, push the camera off and get the document bigger, because, you know, speaking to the idea of the small fonts occasionally, kind of want a bit of a, be ideal if it's seamless for the person online too. Just raising that again.
Yep, that will be absolutely considered, and from the early discussions I've had, that will be a simple enough feature for us to implement. The software may dictate whether we have to control what they see versus whether they just automatically see what we see. I know right now we even have to choose if the presentation is going out to YouTube. That's actually being manually done off to the side currently, whereas this would definitely automate that process for us.
That's great. Council, any further thoughts on this? Any idea on timeline? If we said yes tonight?
To put the RFP together and to get that out, if it was said yes tonight, I'd be able to start working on that next week. And it doesn't give you a timeline for completion, but at least gives you a timeline to see things started here.
Ms. Phillips, you may be the best one to touch on this, but I know we have informally chatted that there might be some opportunity for council involvement at those stages as we're testing. Could you touch on what that could look like?
So our intent would be, if you approve the budget, the pre-approval of the budget tonight, we'll start working on the RFP right away. We'll get the proposals in, kind of like we did with the strat plan. We would probably shortlist it, find the top ones that meet all your needs, and then we'd love to have council give input. So whether that's having a subcommittee of a few people to see those demos, or it could be part of committee of the whole where we bring in those demos. It would take a bit of time. That's the only issue, is I imagine those demos are probably 45 minutes, half hour, 45 minutes each,
Correct.
typically?
Yep, and the ones the vendors I have reached out to have verified that, at least two of them have verified they could physically bring hardware in to showcase some of the features, as I mentioned, about the digital screens. They'd have fully operational ones with fictitious names. But yes, they could bring in physical hardware to showcase.
So it would be up to council if you would like to do that as part of committee of the whole over, that might take a little longer, or if you wanted to just say the mayor and councillor, these two councillors, one councillor, however you want to do it.
My suggestion, council, would be that we fine tune to those dates and we basically create a subcommittee of whoever is interested and available. So if, you know, someone can't carve the time out of their schedule, they're not obligated to do so, but if they'd really like to and can make the time, we could make that work, but that everyone gets the opportunity if it's something they're interested in, knowing we'll need a solid chunk of time to do so. I am excited to put my hand up for that. Very keen to try this out. Council, any further thoughts on this item? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. We've reached just over an hour, so let's take 10. We'll come back at 5:25. And actually, I see that we're going to skip ahead one agenda item. I do want to really stick to our recess times, so I'd like to go forward and then we'll come back to that. So let's move ahead to business item 6J, Alberta Muni's Spring Municipal Leaders Caucus, and I'm actually going to speak to this. So this item is on our agenda because every year prior to spring and fall Alberta Munis, we get a letter saying, would you like to request a letter or a meeting with the minister? It's just our opportunity to put in that request. We did do that in the fall and had a meeting. We chatted about the library. So just throwing this offer out to council, would we like to put in a meeting request? Do we have any value in that? Councillor Payne.
Would we actually get the meeting considering we just met with them? Like you generally...
Purely my opinion, likely not, but
Yeah.
that doesn't mean we shouldn't put in the request.
Yeah, because...
If we have a valuable item, let me say.
Yeah, in the past when we've had opportunities like this, usually we go kind of back to the bottom of the line. And so I don't know if spending a whole lot of time coming up with a plan, considering we really just met with the guy.
Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Looking at the dates, you know, we should have a lot of information by the end of February on certain few items. Yeah, so I don't know if we want to go ahead.
It is also my recommendation, Council. We just wanted to make sure I wasn't the one making that choice, that we don't put in a request for this time. I think after we have our strategic planning, we set our new priorities, we might have value in putting in a request outside of this. We also have the luxury of not being too far away. And if a meeting is really requested, we could go up, if there's a great need between now and the fall session, we could just drive to Edmonton for a meeting with the minister. But I'll also say through Mid-Sized Cities, I have the opportunity to meet with him quite regularly. I know I'll be touching base with him in February anyways, with Mid-Sized Cities. I don't feel like this is a big miss, but I certainly didn't want to make that decision on my own. So if there's no concerns with that, we can just carry on in our agenda. Great. But really looking forward to the advocacy conversation that we'll have as a part of strat planning, and I think that will give our direction. The tough thing is about this request is when you put it in, you also have to list all your items, and it's prior to the date that we'll be having those discussions. Great. Let's loop back to item number 6I, Council Remuneration Policy Amendments. Councillor Ostindi, you had a note or something you'd like to discuss there.
Yes, thank you. It was with regards to a statement in the remuneration of council, or yes, under the title number 3, Council Remuneration, page 100 of our agenda. Near the bottom, they refer to a statement that I don't think is potentially clear to everyone, and I've had a conversation just briefly with our CAO, Ms. Phillips, and the statement is the mayor is allocated 20 lieu days as honorariums and are not subject to vacation days. If it's unclear to me, I'm pretty sure it's unclear to many other people, and it is to do, the confusion comes up with the idea that the mayor is not an employee, so maybe we need to knock the statement right out, or we have to clarify it better so that if someone reads this in plain English, they know what it means.
Ms. Phillips.
I thank you for pointing that out. I agree that the statement is not overly clear. We could change it to as an elected official, the mayor is not entitled to vacation days and therefore will be allocated 20 lieu days as honorariums. Is that better?
That reads really well to me, and I think someone in the public would, if they saw the bylaw, would understand totally what it's saying.
And we'll make that change. And if you're comfortable approving it, then we could with the amendment.
Great. Would someone like to make a motion with that amendment included? Councillor Mearns. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that council adopts the council remuneration policy as reported in AIR 1311, and further the council repeal policy L001004F with the amendments as discussed on the mayor's allocated 20 lieu days.
Excellent. Comments, conversation? Seeing none, all those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to business item K, procedural bylaw, second and third reading. Ms. Phillips.
So with the second reading, after our closed session, we spoke about open microphone. There was some conversation around keeping it this as is with the wording that it had to be on the agenda to speak to the item. I've included an alternate option, which states that the members of the public may only speak on items that council has the authority to address. So they must state as they sign up what they're speaking about to ensure that it does fall within there. And then there was some guidelines and examples of what could be included, what couldn't be included, and also some, that they shouldn't be coming up criticizing staff. That should be directed at the director or CAO, and we have no authority over councillor behavior, so they shouldn't be bringing forward that. And basically have some guidelines that we could even have laid out for the members of the public. The other section I added, so one of the reasons that the reason this was coming forward, this bylaw, was because there were several sections out of the Code of Conduct that we felt needed to be included somewhere, so you'll still see some other policies coming forward. And we did feel that just that statement regarding what is expected when we are in council chambers should be in our procedure bylaw in some way, shape, or form. So those are the additions for second reading if council is supportive.
Excellent. Council, any questions? Yes, Councillor Iwanicki.
Thank you, Ms. Phillips. Just a question in regards to the comments about the conduct and procedure. Is there a particular reason why we have to parse it out between procedural conduct by members, like council, versus procedural conduct by members of the public? Like, couldn't we just do a lump sum and just say any person who uses the microphone must follow blah, blah, blah steps, and then it's sort of we're covering all of our bases and not getting any confusion there about who's subject to what rule or procedure?
Thank you. That is a very good point. We could just have expected conduct in council chambers for public and councillors, members, depending on the meeting.
I like that. Yep. Additional comment around that, Councillor Ostindi?
Got to be careful you don't enter debate. Just to say, if we're going to put it on the table, the idea of including the second, I call it the second bullet, the idea of expanding, like the first bullet of open mic speaks of members of the public may only speak on items that council has authority to address. I lean towards the second bullet as being part of the, call it amendment, because we don't include it yet. So that second bullet, members of the public must state the topic they'll be discussing, so that so it's not awkward when someone comes to the microphone, they've set themselves up, they're talking away, and then suddenly the mayor's going, whoa, 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 whoa. It's already discussed in a simple way long before this awkward moment of, oh, I thought I could talk about this. They might not even realize council has no authority, and they've come to their local town council to speak, and then suddenly they're shut down in public, on camera, and it's just really awkward. So I like the idea of the second one, just that they let the, yeah.
Sorry, if I could clarify,
Sure.
That whole section in there is what we would actually put in the bylaw. Because what's in there currently is that they may only speak to items that are currently on the agenda. We delete that and replace that with this entire paragraph.
Okay, and that's what I'm saying. I'd want that amendment if we're putting it forward, that when we put this, that we include those words. That's what I'm thinking about.
Council, I think it makes sense to skirt our procedure a little bit on this item because it would be involved in the motion. So let's talk about open microphone specifically. Is everyone comfortable with the proposal within the report? Great. I'd just like to add the comment. And we talked a little bit about this when it came to public hearings, about having a little bit of a takeaway or something. I'd love to see us create a little postcard for open mic. You sign up for open mic and you're given it to go back to your seat that just outlines exactly what that process is, that they can sit there and peruse while they're waiting for the other agenda items. I think the same for a public hearing makes sense. It just tells people exactly how this process goes, and I don't think we'd be going through hundreds of them. I think a little stack at the desk for each of those situations would make sense and could give those examples, because I don't think necessarily everyone is showing up with a copy of the bylaw or has pre-read that, so it just helps guide, what's appropriate conduct, what do we expect, how much time do you have, a few of those things. Further thoughts on that? All right. We're happy to have that included. With that, we also had a conversation around changing the members from just people. How do we, we'll let you work on the language. How do we feel about that, Councillor Mearns?
Yeah, I would support that, anybody in chambers, whether it's public or council.
Yeah. That makes sense. Great. Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Ms. Phillips, could you help us with some wording incorporating the things that we have just suggested?
Sorry? You could just do it as amended. Okay. Would you just want to do second reading tonight, then we bring back the further changes, or do second and third reading with the changes?
I'd actually be okay going forward with third reading.
So it could be second reading of the council approves second reading of the procedure bylaw, with all the numbers in there, of course, including the amendments to open microphone and member conduct in meetings as discussed.
Great.
And then we'll ensure that those are in there. Because then, I mean, you're approving the minutes at the next meeting that with all that. Yeah.
That sounds great. So to just be very clear for anyone listening, those changes that we'd like to add is remove the fact that you could only speak at open microphone around items related to the agenda. We'd like to open it up as long as it's items within council's control is what we're comfortable with, and we've got some language provided within our report. The other is the reference to different rules for members versus anyone else. We would just change that to a universal language, whether it be people or however that can be wordsmithed, however that should be wordsmithed to be all-inclusive. It's the conduct for everyone.
And you could work that right into the motion that is amended to include open mic to exactly what break down those amendments more clearly if you want to make sure there's very clear direction. We could write out, take a minute and write out a motion.
Could we take a 3-minute recess here, Council, and we'll just get that written out in a way that works. Let's do that. work on that. I think we have some wording for us to consider. Ms. Phillips, can I get you, we may try and get it up on the screen, but there's a reason why we're talking about technology upgrades in an earlier agenda item. So for now, I think we can probably just read it.
The council approves second reading of procedure bylaw 1939-2026 pursuant to AIR 1307 as amended to include changes to open microphone restricting members of the public to only speak to items that council has authority to address and to combine conduct in meetings to include both public and council members.
Does that capture? Great. Councillor Mearns, are you putting your hand up that is your motion?
Yeah, I make a motion that council approve second reading as presented.
In the motion just described. Thank you very much. All right, all those in favor and opposed, and that is carried unanimously. Councillor, do we have an appetite to do third reading? Great. Councillor Bilodeau?
That council approve third reading of the procedure bylaw 1939-2026 pursuant to AR 1307 with the changes proposed in second reading.
Yes, and because those changes are captured in the motion for second reading, it's probably okay, just the motion as read. Thank you. We have a motion on the floor from Councillor Bilodeau to approve third reading with those changes incorporated. Any further discussion, Council? All those in favor and opposed? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, move along to correspondence and information items. We've got a number of items before us. Council, do we have any questions on those items? No, move along to the CAO report. Ms. Phillips.
We had a bit of a hefty report this time with our break over Christmas and moving to every other meeting. So again, the report is included in the agenda if you have any questions or comments on any of these items, but I will highlight a few. So in corporate services, we are in the process of recruiting a new HR manager, and we are also have the financial audit underway. In community services, again, lots to highlight, but January 27th, nominations for the 2026 Youth Spark Awards open. So if you have any ideas around that one, as well as Citizen of the Year nominations will be open yearly from July 1st to the second Friday in March. With promotion emphasized in February and early March. So that's coming up as well. Zoomers has been very busy. We've listed some trips there. So we have our weekly trips on Mondays to No Frills and Thursdays to Walmart. We had 92 grocery trips in 2025. And then social trips, we had 65 total participants and 635 rides up to December 4th. Next Source Center, I love how we're always adapting our schedule to add extra public swim times, stick and puck times during our breaks, whether they're non-student days or winter breaks. So lots going on there, as well as additional drop-in swimming and winter break day camps. We also do drop-in golf, batting practice, disc golf at the back of the curling rink. So that's been introduced. Upcoming events, I believe you're all aware of the upcoming Ice Dragon Boat Festival. I'm very excited to see that for my first year in town, and to be part of that with fireworks following at the Lakefront Park. Parks and Protective Services, highlighting that the Winter Village will then also be taken down following the Family Day weekend, and the washroom upgrades at Lakefront are being currently renovated. Planning and Development, another very busy department. Reports are attached, just highlighting that we have building permits as of the end of December was 339 with a value of over $55 million. So fantastic. Environmental Services, staff have been invited to present on source control at an upcoming Alberta Water and Wastewater Operators Association conference to present on goldfish at the, and to present on goldfish at the Invasive Species Center's online conference. The drop and swap tent, we have our temporary tent up and running, so that's back operational at the transfer site. Engineering, 47th Ave, Fortis has completed their scope of work. Construction of the traffic lights at the intersection will begin here right away. And reclamation of a wastewater lagoon cell 7 has been scheduled. Tourism further around the long weekend, we also have the winter Sips and Sweets tour. And then the Mermaids Like Winter 2 social media campaign. I thought that sounded really neat to see. So, and economic development, the target sector profiles has been completed on the website under site selector resources. So some great resources there. And if anyone has any questions.
Great. Councillor Johansson.
Talk to me about drop-in golf. This is new to me, and is Modex still there? Yeah, I'm just interested to what that is.
Yeah, in the Nexor Center in the back of the curling rink, there are some cages back there. So there's cages available for drop-in golf, or it could be for drop-in like baseball, for example. And there's also drop-in disc golf back there. So it's just alongside with anyone's membership at the Nexor Center. You just look online. All the drop-in schedules are there. And so that is listed as one of the drop-in activities.
Cool, thank you.
Councillor Ostendi.
Questions and compliments too to give. The Zoomer bus, as I understand it, has, it's a grant money, so it's not a forever program, I understand. But I was wondering who sets all the policy for the Zoomers, because I've heard things have changed over time as it runs, but sometimes it's restrictive in the sense that you must be picked up, I understand, from a residential address. You cannot be picked up from a store, so you can play the game and just walk over a half block and stand in front of a house. But, those kind of rigidities, what flexibility do we have as users of the system is kind of a question, and might be good we have an expert nearby.
I will bring Ms. McDonald up. I know we're currently working on that, so.
For sure. Through the chair to Councillor Stindy, it's not grant funded, it's town funded.
Oh, it is also.
The Zoomers program, yes. And we are working through some procedure changes. One of the complications is the registration is required each time somebody uses the Zoomers bus, so that we make sure that we are planning an accurate route for pickup. So when people phone in each time to register, they give us their home address, and then we plan a route. So if people are changing locations, it makes it a little bit of an administrative nightmare to do a new route every time. Pretty much the same users are riding the bus on those either Monday or Thursday trips. So it's easy to figure out a route. And so one of the complications is just trying to plan that trip with the bus drivers, because people can register pretty much to the last minute. And so then we'd be changing our route as we were heading out the door. Mm-hmm. But it is WCC staff that look at that policy and bring it back to, it's a council policy.
Okay, great. No, that's good to hear that we're constantly looking at it. And I know it's a new program and it's an amazing program. I get a lot of feedback in my circles about it that is really positive. So glad to see it growing as the numbers show too. Other different questions. One is compliments. I sat having a matcha tea in a new business today, and the owner was so complimentary of our planning and development department. Said getting the business license, potentially doing, something not right, having it explained to them, showing them exactly what they needed, really friendly attitude, as well as informative. And that was like super strong feedback from this business owner here in town. So I want to pass that kudos on. And solar permits, I'm curious as our energy landscape changes, I've been noticing from personal interest as for sure as well, but I'm curious the number of solar permits that have gone out in the last few short years. And I'm just curious how much is that being integrated into our town. And I know I'm hoping it's just a really easy thing to pull up on a report. in the future.
Through the chair to Councillor Ostindi, yes, we can run a report and get you a number. Is there a specific time, 24 months you'd like to see?
I suspect if we did 3 years, we probably captured 100% of all solar panels in this town, because I know the fellow husband and wife that said they had the 7th one in our town. So I'm very curious about that growth and how many we really have. And I know my wife and I have probably the last one in our town, so are pretty close to it. So anyway, I'm just curious about the growth and how much people are adapting that technology now.
Yep, we can definitely put together a report, and we'll put that in the information items in the next council agenda for council. I will also add that we've seen a steady increase in, especially in 24-25 of solar panels, because there was grants available, government grants, so we saw a lot of uptake on those.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, appreciate that.
You're very welcome.
Additional questions on the CAO report? Oh, yes, Councillor Bilodeau.
Just about the temporary drop and swap tent, I was just curious what it was we came up with, because we were waiting so long on this other structure. So I haven't been there yet, so I don't know what's there. I'm just curious, does anybody know? What's the temporary structure? Do we have an idea how long the temporary structure will be there before the delayed structure is permanently put in?
Yes, I can answer some of that. So the temporary structure, it's basically just a tent held down with concrete blocks and stuff, secured around the sides, of course. It is something that we are going to be able to use in other facilities and stuff as we move forward. It's not a waste. As for the permanent structure, there was a bit of a delay for that in the procurement process, but we're told it's going to be here as soon as it can, so we're just waiting patiently for that to arrive. Yeah. Sorry, there's a third one there you asked. It's slipping my mind here.
No, I think you covered it.
Okay.
What I'm concerned about is, will there be a lot of downtime when the new permanent structure comes, that tent, to kind of take away the temporary and put in the, are we losing a bunch of days on that too?
I don't know the answer to that right now.
Okay.
We can certainly track that down and see what kind of, downtime there will be. I know to put up the new one, it was pretty much done in a day, half a day. It didn't take very long to do that, so I know that part is pretty quick. But we'll have to follow up and we'll get that information back to you.
If I could pass along one thought, I don't think council or anyone with the town of Sylvan Lake realized how well utilized it was until it wasn't available to us. I think that was the most talked about item of December, at least in my own emails. So, learning there. I just want to note, under Parks and Protective Service, February 5th, the Winter Appreciation Event for healthcare professionals is a no-go. There was a bit of miscommunication between, at no fault of the town, really between the committee. And I just didn't want anyone to have plugged that in on their calendars. They instead, and I've already connected with council about it, but they're doing an appreciation night at the Wranglers game this weekend, and many of council will be joining us there, so looking forward to that. Do not show up for the fire pit. You will be cold. Thank you. Any others on the CAO report? Great, seeing none. I'll move into council requests for information and updates. We've moved many of those through our consent report, but Councillor Cindy, did you have another question under this category?
Yes. Yes, one question for feedback is regarding the police committee. I understand that they may still be awaiting security checks for members of that committee before they can meet, but I was thinking how when the public signs up, they expect to serve or hope to serve, and I'm thinking, even if part of their job can't be done because they don't have the final check that their great-grandmother wasn't a fraud artist, there might be work that committee can already start doing or setting up. And that was a question in terms of, it was a question that came to me, and I was wondering is there work that can be done setting it up, and then can they start serving?
Mr. Lebsack.
Thank you. So through the chair, that's correct. We only have 4 of the 7 security clearances that we've received back already. So we're still waiting for the others. Again, they've all been submitted. We're just waiting for them. And as far as the committee goes, not really, because we could do maybe an orientation and that's it. The committee really is set around receiving complaints from the public and reviewing those, and we can't receive that kind of information until we have security clearance. So there really isn't, other than an orientation, anything that we can really do with that committee until we get our security clearances.
A follow-up to that, I do wonder if there might be cause just to send an email and really flag to resend an email every quarter that we haven't had news to that entire committee, especially the public members who don't have this opportunity to ask, to say, hey, still appreciate that you applied last year. This is what we're waiting on. Just because I believe that question stemmed from a conversation you had out in community from someone who's on that committee who hadn't heard. So, you know, maybe a scheduled quarterly update until we get that. I will note that it is a bit of comedy to me how long this is taking, especially because one of those appointments expires this year. So in all likelihood, by the time we get everyone, we will need to bring on a new committee member and we will be in this exact same position. But this is a provincial fail, not a local one, but I do think that communication maybe could be helpful. That's great, thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. Notices, unless we have any other items there, seeing no hands, we've got 2. The first one is mine, so let me just get to that page. And both of these are just for initial review. My notice of motion is that Council direct administration to bring forward a review of the terms of reference for the Emergency Advisory Committee, including Council's consideration of restructuring the committee. It's been a long day. From selected council appointments to the full council, with updates provided during the governance and priorities meeting annually or more frequently as required. The little explanation I'll add is this was just a thought as I sat through the emergency management training, that the limited meetings that we have through this committee, the information will be valuable for all of council, and I think that makes sense. We are only meeting once or twice a year anyway, so I don't think it would be a big hardship, and I think it'd be great information for everyone. So we will discuss that at an upcoming meeting, and Councillor Iwanicki, you also have a notice of motion.
Yep, my notice of motion is that Town Council directs administration to do a full review of the community standards bylaw with the intent to update the same for enhanced clarity and enforceability, and to provide a report to Council on recommended options upon review of the best practices of other municipalities, and that Town Council directs administration to focus their efforts on updating the community standards bylaw where appropriate, on littering, vandalism, and public nuisances. And finally, and that Town Council directs administration review the specified penalty rates with the purpose of increasing them in line with other municipalities, and to provide a report to Council on recommendations for increased rates. Just, again, to echo just my thoughts, I have littered according to our bylaw. So that's where my head's at right there, is let's just make sure it all makes sense. It can actually have some teeth, and that the penalties make sense in the modern age. I don't know when they were updated last. So.
Both of those will be discussed at an upcoming meeting. Next, we'll move into a closed meeting. Councilor Mearns, do you have a motion for us?
Yeah, I make a motion the council move to a closed meeting to discuss privileged information, and this item shall remain confidential pursuant to section 32(1)(a) of the Access to Information Act, SA 2024 CA 1.4, and section 197(2) of the Municipal Government Act, RSA 2000 M26.
Excellent. Motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. We will reconvene in the Lozelle room. All right, Councillor Johannesen. Do you have a motion?
Move that council, or that the closed session concludes and council reverts back to the regular meeting of council.
Excellent. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Council, we've reached the end of our agenda. Our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.